Smart Cities and Services Improvements Committee. Can we have the clerk call the roll?
Foley,
Oops, here.
Jones,
Present.
Liccardo, Cohen,
Here.
Mahan.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. So before we jump in, I will remind everyone of our code of conduct. I remind the committee members and members of the public to follow our code of conduct at meetings, which includes commenting on specific agenda items only and addressing the full body. Public speakers will not engage in a conversation with the chair, council members, or staff. All members of the committee, staff, and the public are expected to refrain from abusive language. Repeated failure to comply with the code of conduct, which will disturb, disrupt, or impede the orderly conduct of this meeting, may result in removal from the meeting. This meeting of the Smart Cities and Service Improvements Committee will now come to order. Okay, great. I guess I was supposed to do that first. Apologies. All right. Nothing under work plan or consent, so we're on to reports. Rob, do you want to give us an overview of what we're covering today?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chairperson Mahan, Mayor Liccardo, committee members, and members of the community. Rob Lloyd, Deputy City Manager for the City of San Jose. For our November committee meeting, staff will present 3 items. 2 of them are significant updates. First, under agenda item D1, we have the annual report on progress implementing the IT strategic plan approved by the committee and City Council last year. The Information Technology Department is working across departments on needs defined by lessons from the pandemic response and recovery. The city's Chief Information Officer will present that item. Second, under agenda item D2, we have a status report on the city's customer service vision and standards. This is a main priority for the city manager and city council and is a city roadmap priority initiative under the Powered by People item. The city manager's chief of staff and Eric Jensen, assistant to the city manager, will lead that presentation. Finally, under item D3, we have a status report on Beautify SJ vehicle blight improvements to respond to vehicle complaints from residents. The city is seeing changing patterns and intensities of complaints, as council district offices have shared, with declining customer satisfaction rates. This is an enterprise priority as well from the city council and city manager, and is a city roadmap initiative under the Clean, Vibrant, and Inclusive Neighborhoods and Public Life item. The Information Technology Department and Transportation Department will present for the team that includes PRNS, or Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services, Police, Environmental Services, and the Communications Departments. And with that, Khaled, our Chief Information Officer, will lead us off.
Thank you, Rob. Good afternoon, Chair Mahan, council members, and members of the public. My name is Khaled Tawfiq. I'm the Chief Information Officer, and we're here to present the status of the IT strategic plan. The current 21-23 IT strategic plan was approved by City Council in August 2021, and it was developed to represent the customer's voice and to reflect the city's investment in technology over the following 2 years, guided by the city's initiative roadmap as well as a smart city vision. In addition to IT strategic plan, an IT work plan is developed every year to identify new major projects, address new priorities, and take advantage of new technologies. The IT work plan identifies the implementation teams and establishes a clear connection between the city roadmap and the priorities and performance of IT staff. The IT plan can be summarized at a high level in 5 areas. Our mission of investing in powerful tools to empower staff to serve our communities, the strategic initiatives that focus on enabling service equity, securing San Jose, optimizing our services to improve results, transforming operation through the power of digital services, and invest in partnerships to ensure collaboration. We measure progress by monitoring service equity and the effectiveness of our initiatives in serving our community. We establish performance measures to ensure continuous improvements in the areas of internal and external customer satisfaction, project delivery, and service reliability. By measuring our progress, we recognize the need to improve our customer satisfaction, Several projects were initiated to address customer satisfaction in a comprehensive manner. The vehicle blight presentation will provide information regarding our progress to improve customer satisfaction and will be addressed later in this meeting. Our project delivery status rate is below the established 80% goal, and our average IT vacancies continue to be high. Vacancy rate increased drastically in government since 2016. As we can see in the chart, government job posting increased by 40% since 2016, while the number of job applicants decreased by 22%, resulting in a total of about 62% change since 2016. While the chart looks drastic, we realize the challenge in recruiting IT professionals is more than severe when it comes to San Jose, since the chart reflects the national average and not related to the Bay Area. So what are we doing? We made hiring a top priority for every manager in the IT department to address the 26 vacancies we have. We also hired a dedicated temporary staff to focus on recruitment, and we continued our investment in college interns. We currently have 7 college interns. We have expanded our internship program to include high school students. We are proud of our 3 young, bright high school students in the IT department. The goal is to invest in high school students and encourage them to pursue career in and education in IT. We are optimistic that our investment in the community and the young generation will have a great outcome in the near future. We're also collaborating with the HR department to replace the current recruitment system with a new one that is focused on government jobs and applications to simplify the process and attract more candidates. Since submitting this report last week, we hired 1 person and drafted more than 4 offer letters this week. Our investment in recruitment started to pay off. Our project status rate is below the 80% target, and several activities are currently underway to achieve our goal. We recognize oversight errors that are being corrected, and we are working on establishing project management standards and enhancing requirement gathering skills by focusing on the customer, and we are redesigning our process, or we are adopting a new process as a human design center methodology to ensure that the customer continue to be the focus, and our requirements can also result in enhanced processes throughout the city. The equity through data and privacy programs have been a high priority. The underrepresented community is about 32% of the population, and we continue to collaborate with the Office of Racial Equity and the city departments to establish data-informed look at equity throughout the city. We are comparing the number of service requests received from the underrepresented communities to the average number of requests received through 311. About 30% of 311 services were received since January from underrepresented communities, while the average for the rest of the city is about 32%. The equity through data and privacy teams have been active with supporting the Wi-Fi access analysis and digital inclusion, supporting the COVID recovery task force and its work on data, budgeting, and performance, and engaging the residents on new technology through in-person events, webinars, and online information. We're working closely with the city manager's office to support the customer service initiative and evaluating options to expand San Jose 311 services, enhance language support, and provide additional call quality training to the 311 staff. Recognizing the need to maximize our efficiency when supporting departments, we focus on critical initiatives to ensure our lean IT staff is focused on delivering the highest possible value to our customers. The highlighted boxes are some of the areas that we're focusing on, and as we complete them, we move to address other boxes or other initiatives. This is the current city initiative roadmap for this year. And as you can see, the IT staff is supporting 13 city initiatives by providing innovative solutions, new technologies, and critical data. Awards recognize the city for its remarkable investment in technology to achieve the highest possible public service. In addition, awards validate the city's plans and actions. The city recently received the Project Experience Awards for the 311 services for equity and accessibility. Also, we received the Cybersecurity Privacy Award. We were also made aware that 2 more awards will be received by the end of this year. Fortunately, we cannot disclose the new awards until the agency announces them. As we get closer to completing the current 21-23 IT strategic plan, we recognize that the plan was built on pandemic lessons and the need for recovery. We will focus on finishing strong and reflect on lessons learned to help us develop the next chapter. The next IT plan will build on our successes, advance our automation capability, empower our hybrid digital workforce, and capture the vision of the newly elected leaders. This concludes my presentation, and I look forward for questions and feedback.
Great. Thanks so much, Khaled. Why don't we go to public comment?
Paul Soto.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. We really need to start moving away from this flowery language and award ceremonies, because when you're talking about equity, and you use that word a lot, okay, the definition still doesn't fit. That is not a legal definition that the city, just because you guys approved it, doesn't mean that it has meaning, okay? Because I can't take that equity definition and challenge anything in court, because it's not even a definition. And it seems like that's what's gonna have to be done. These policies that you're passing, I'm gonna have to take them to court and sue the city and show and demonstrate and embarrass you, because you're not consistent with what that word means within the context of technology. And here's the proof of that, is that there are so many neighborhoods that are still deficient. And when you come to these meetings and start saying, we're working on that, we're working with this office, we're working with that office, that's not gonna work anymore, because we moved away from an agrarian economy and a manufacturing economy. That means that the deficits that were created from all of those people's parents and grandparents, all of those deficits that were created, we're dealing with now. And this city doesn't know how to deal with it, because it can't look itself in the face and in the eye and call itself for what it is, which means that this racist city and the policies that have infected these communities with those deficits, this city doesn't have the character to look at itself in the mirror and to accept accountability and responsibility for it. That's the issue here with technology and equity. And so before you start patting yourselves on the back and awarding yourselves, you really need to start paying very close attention to the way you're using that word, because I take offense to it, because you know absolutely nothing what it's like to grow up within.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for the words of Paul. I think, civic innovation and city government staff, they've had a pretty intense 6 months from about June to about September, readdressing and reevaluating how to address, their tech practices with the community and start to reach out to the community. I think the ALPR meeting of early October was sad for all of us, because basically all the good work that Civic Innovation was trying to learn how to speak to the public about, the ALPR company came in and made a mockery of it, and a real sad joke of the whole situation. I hope we're picking up the pieces from that, and that we're learning to better talk to ourselves since that time, and we want to continue those good efforts. Openness and accountability with technology is so incredibly important. I mean, just consider it for yourselves. Think to yourselves how often you work to really keep away an honest, open approach with the public about technology issues. It's stunning. And I think we really have to make those efforts to want to address the community more honestly. That is equity. You guys aren't addressing those concepts. That is innovation. If you work on those subjects, really take the time to do that, that is innovation. And you guys don't make those efforts. You sat here today talking about the wonders of tech itself, yet again. And bridging the digital divide is issues of how to place more and more Wi-Fi into local neighborhoods without asking the community first, without asking local neighborhoods. How do we work that process to politely ask and for community to politely respond? Those are the efforts that really need to be discussed. That is the innovation. Good luck.
Back to the committee.
Great, thank you. Oh, Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the presentation. Couple of things. One is I really like the recruitment of young people, high school students, and also college students. I think if we can get them in the pipeline early and have them grow and develop through working at the city, I think that's a great thing. But there's also a pool of older IT workers out there. As a lot of people know, these Silicon Valley companies, tend to skew younger. And once somebody hits a certain age, typically around 40, 45, they're kind of considered, past their prime. And so there's a lot of older workers who are either burnt out working in the private sector or are just being pushed out. And so my first question is there a strategy to target and identify some of these older, experienced workers?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Jones. We're not targeting specifically an age group. When we recruit, we'll make it an open recruitment. But you raise a very good point. Maybe we can realign some of our resources to look into that. And I would love to check with you to see what areas we need to promote or to market our positions to reach more people, more candidates in that age group.
Yeah, it's really about the targeting and marketing to that group. The next question, and this is something that always comes up during this committee meeting, and that is the impact of abandoned vehicles. And I see from the memo that obviously that has the largest impact in terms of driving our residents' satisfaction. Can you just help me understand kind of the process that we're going to undertake to align what's going on with the city departments and how they're addressing abandoned vehicles and their new strategy, how that aligns with what IT is doing in terms of your being able to move and push that number higher?
Thank you for the question. I believe the third item on this agenda will provide additional details, and it will be great to address your question maybe after the presentation, if you want.
Okay, great. And that's all I have. I'll make a motion to accept the staff report.
Second.
Great, thank you. Motion is second. Cohen, nothing, okay. Just a couple quick questions. Thanks for the update, really appreciate the status report. On hiring, I wanted to also pick up, going back to the younger age range. I was hoping you could tell us a little more about our partnership with San Jose State, maybe specifically to what extent we are reaching out to, working with them, just given that we have a university next door that, last time I checked, graduates more technical degrees every year than any other university in the state. I think that's still true, or at least very high on that ranking. And of course, we have some other great universities and community colleges in the area. To what extent are we going in and meeting with those CS classes and talking to their professors and those kinds of things?
Thank you, Chairman. We have a great relationship with the university. 7 of our interns are from the university, and we continue to expand. We also trying to develop some training programs in areas where tools are needed and deficiency we have in the city. So we're working very closely with HR and the university to develop these training programs. We are also planning to attend some of the computer science classes and clubs just to speak about what we do, and hopefully that will attract more students to join us. The relationship is great. We continue to foster it. The high school program is also one of the things we're trying to get younger students or younger men and women to get excited about technology, and we're hoping that they will select the IT as a career path and going through the San Jose State University, and that way we can be a continuous program for them, high school, college, and then hopefully when they're see that what we do for the public and they're part of the community, that will increase our chances for retaining and attracting more students that way.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm really bullish on the all of the above, but I know when I was running a company, having college interns really opened up a pipeline for us in terms of hiring as people graduated. If you wanted to expand that program, would you have barriers in terms of money or management capacity, or is that something that you think you will be able to continue to expand?
Believe it or not, we're also competing against other companies for college students.
You don't say.
Eventually, we have to go to elementary school to start early and get them before anybody gets them. We're not as competitive, and we are working with the HR department to see how we can make some changes to make us more attractive and more competitive.
So then a follow-up on that, sorry to interrupt. If you were to fill all of the slots you had capacity to utilize, to manage, how many San Jose State students could we take on?
Currently, we have 7. I would like to increase it to 20 to 25. That's
Oh,
my
good.
goal.
Okay,
'Cause
ambitious.
They're
Awesome.
they're hungry, they're very
Yeah.
energetic, and they want to learn and produce, and they're very effective in helping us.
Yeah. Okay, great. And then just a comment on, Vice Mayor mentioned on resident satisfaction that we were down. I couldn't tell from at least from the slides, how that's trending. Is it possible for some of those key success metrics to actually put them on a time series in the future? If it isn't too much work.
No,
but-
absolutely. We have the data, and would love to show the
Okay.
progress over to you.
And was it a meaningful drop, or was it just a slight, were we just seeing kind of normal?
I think
movement?
the vehicle blight was the biggest
The what?
change. The vehicle blight
Yeah.
service.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest change that we've seen over the last year and a half, 2 years, and we will discuss later today that what we're doing to
Right.
take care of that.
Item
But
3.
it hasn't been a drastic change, but other than that service, that one. But we'll definitely provide the trend just to show where we're doing by
Great.
category.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful for those success metrics to just see it over time and kind of understand how we're trending and if there's big or small changes. And then finally on the on that same one, is the only input 311 satisfaction, or are there other sources?
There are the internal customer service for help desk and IT services. So we believe that for us to ask the staff and the city to perform well for the public, internal services have to be up to the same standard so they can perform their job. So we are higher. We're about 92% satisfaction with internal customer service. And
Yeah.
we'll continue to see how we can.
And what you're just describing there, that's actually the second measure,
Correct.
right? That's the second one, which is really positive. Okay, cool. Mayor, did you want to jump in on this one, or no? We're good. Okay, I believe, let me check Zoom one more time. I think we are ready to vote.
Foley,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Licardo,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are on to our second item, which is our customer service vision and standards status report. Rob, are you introing?
Yeah, I'm just going to buy him a little bit of time. So this will be the first time that the customer service vision and standards have been presented in public. We're excited that the item is coming to you as the committee. I'm now handing it over to Dolan Beckel, our Chief of Staff, Eric Jensen, and I'll let them introduce from there.
Good afternoon, Chair, Committee, members of the public. My name is Eric Chiarella Jensen, Assistant to the City Manager. I'm joined in the box today by Dolan Beckel, City Manager, Chief of Staff, and Kia O'Hara, Program Manager, SJ301 Customer Contact Center I'm also enthusiastic to be joined by our incredible partners in the audience from Guidehouse. So we have Colin Lopez, who's partner, and then also Rainu Grover, associate director. They've been wonderful partners for us in this work. Today, we are here to provide the committee a status update on our customer service vision and standards initiative. This is the first committee update that we've brought for this initiative since its launch as one of the city manager's key focus areas. In terms of alignment with our overall city roadmap, this initiative is part of our Powered by People enterprise priority on the roadmap for 22 to 23 fiscal year. The initiative also aligns with the city's one team leadership values and expectations. And so the purpose of this initiative is to better support residents, businesses, and visitors in accessing and navigating city services. And so today, when we talk about customer service, what we're really talking about is those person-to-person touch points of support and accompaniment alongside city service delivery, which for an organization that's powered by people within a diverse community is critical for delivering more equitable government services. We also believe that customer service is a tool for achieving better service delivery outcomes through access, increasing employee engagement, and building community trust. We have engaged a partner, Guidehouse, to help develop and initiate this work by undergoing a significant discovery phase and ultimately to develop a customer service vision to be our North Star, a set of standards for accountability, and to create an actionable recommendation and transformation plan to move us forward. We also know that the process is as important as the outcome, and so what we've done is taken a human-centered approach with staff and the community to surface challenges and opportunities for our customer service. The inputs we have used here include department interviews, document reviews, mystery shopping, in which we actually played the role of a customer to access certain city services for ourselves, researching leading practices in other agencies and sectors, customer interviews, customer intercepts, in which we interviewed customers at the point of service delivery, for instance, outside of the community center as a community member is dropping off a kiddo for childcare, et cetera. We also did call observations and front desk observations. The initial tasks of this project include first, this significant discovery phase. Task 2 is mapping the current state through customer personas and journey maps. Task 3 is to develop a customer service vision and set of standards. And task 4 is to map the future state, make a transformation plan, and alongside that, a performance management plan. At this point, we have just completed our discovery phase with plans to complete the remaining tasks this calendar year. These 4 tasks are critical for us in setting the city up for our multi-year journey to better deliver customer service to the community. And so what I want us to do next is give you a sense of what this discovery phase has looked like in terms of inputs. So sharing more background, this is really our community engagement, which we recently completed. To do so, we decided to take a human-centered approach to enable our customers and our community to be the architects of this future. In total, we directly engaged with 416 internal and external stakeholders over 5 different engagement methods here. First, council and staff interviews. Many of you may remember those interviews as you participated in them, in which we interviewed 107 staff, city leaders, mayor, and council members. This also included engaging 34 staff in affinity groups to provide a service delivery perspective on customer service. Second is mystery shopping, in which we played the role of the customer through 7 different scenarios, such as applying for housing and understanding that experience, reserving a park, reporting graffiti, and licensing a new pet. Third is call center and front desk observations, in which we analyzed 65 live and recorded calls in SJ311 to understand customer service procedures and common issues, as well as kind of like the emotional experience of accessing a service. We also conducted 30 front desk observations, including the permit desk, DOT, PRNS, animal care intake, police dispatch, and others. And then fourth, we did phone and virtual outreach, in which we spoke to 35 customers from city referrals and even attended 2 neighborhood association meetings. And then finally, we conducted 170 intercept interviews, in which we conducted brief in-person conversations at 24 locations across the city, including City Hall, community centers, library branches, San Jose State, farmers markets, grocery stores, La Pulga, and other community locations. To do so, we also utilize Spanish and Vietnamese interpretation to conduct these intercept interviews in language. As a result, we have real stories and real experiences from the community in accessing services, with many bright spots, including our staff, but also many challenges that we can learn from and pursue better opportunities. To move forward, we are now transitioning to an analysis phase of these inputs by mapping the current state, creating a vision and set of standards, and a transformation and performance management plan. Next, I will turn it over to Kia.
Thank you, Eric. Hello, everybody. My name is Kia O'Hara. I'm the program manager for SJ311 Customer Contact Center. Thank you for having me here again. I'm going to introduce you to 6 customer personas we've identified with the assistance from our partners at Guidehouse. Thank you for being here today. And see, after the over 400 engagements that Eric just discussed, including many in-reach and outreach methods, we determined there are 6 main customer personas. They are listed here on the slide along the left column, and I'm also going to read them. So persona 1 is a college student, 2 represents a family seeking assistance, 3 is a young person that contacts the city on behalf of their family as well as themselves. Persona 4 is an elderly resident that is a leader within their community. 5 is an employee at a property development company. And finally, 6 represents a couple opening a small business. Each of these personas have different and overlapping attributes, also shown on this slide, which include customer type, age, income, language, channel preference, housing status, accessibility, and other. You'll notice within other that we noted important information that we thought was helpful to know about these personas, such as one of these customers is also a city employee, another acts as a proxy for their company that they work for, and another is a single person who owns a pet. Okay, so now that we've introduced you to these basic type of people that we do come into contact with somewhat often in customer service, I would like to tell you a little bit about how this information will be used and why it's so important to try to understand our customers, residents, and constituents. We will use these basic personas to map our current state, meaning that each persona might go through what they might go through while they're trying to request a service or get information from the city. Thank you. So we will map these customer journeys to understand pain points and love points across 5 key stages. Before we go into the 5 key stages, I would like to note that all of these 5 stages are not necessarily owned by customer service or even delivered by customer service, but good customer service should be experienced at each stage and supported across all stages. So now if you will follow me on this journey, we're going to start at the left side, which is awareness. I'll give you a little information about each phase as we go. Remember, we will have each persona that I just went over go through each one of these phases to understand what they might experience at each phase, given their attributes, which were age, income, language, channel, preference, etc. Okay, so first we have awareness. This is where we seek to understand how much the person knows about the city before ever engaging with us. Second stage is information seeking. This is where the customer researches about their question or concern. This can happen in person, online, calling in, etc. Following the key stages, next is engagement. This is where the persona actually contacts the customer service and they receive directions, solutions, or a referral. Next is service delivery, which is exactly as it's titled. This service delivery, though, it can be like a pet being adopted, reporting an abandoned vehicle when it's finally towed, and so on. Although the service is not provided by customer service, there is still a level of customer service that is needed and should be considered when understanding this customer's journey. Finally is resolution. This is where the persona is updated and issue is resolved, or at least final information is provided about the inquiry or issue. In the green box at the bottom left of the slide are some data-driven customer journeys that we will use. So I'll read just a couple that I think will resonate. So one of the personas will try to adopt a pet or report an animal issue. Another will report an abandoned vehicle. And then 2 additional requests that my team receive often is how to get a business license, or how to replace their garbage cart. And so we'll put each persona through these customer journeys to understand the love and pain points. So I hope that you can see that while we're doing this in these customer journeys, there's going to be many places along these key 5 stages where love and pain points can occur depending on the different type of inquiry, request, or persona. As we continue this very important work, we know we will receive new insight on how to provide better services to all those that live, play, learn, etc. in San Jose. Next slide. Before I pass it on to Dolan to talk about next steps, which is when we will use these actual customer journeys and provide you with more information, I wanted to share these interim quick wins. These are the items that came up that we found that we could start to work on right away. And in some cases, we were able to actually resolve them. 3 that we were completed are as follows. I don't want to read up there. Hold on. Okay, so this one actually is listed as in progress, but it is completed. Communications department has already sent out citywide email to San Jose staff to educate them on the translation services that are available to all city staff, so that when we do get customers who call in and English is not their first language, we're able to help them. And it doesn't matter which city staff gets them, we're all going to be able to help them, and training is going on right now. A second quick win is our Spanish SJ311 hold message. It turns out we had some English spots in the Spanish side, and we weren't aware of that, but as soon as it was brought to our attention, we were able to fix it quickly, and that is completed. And then finally, I'm not going to read all of them, and there's more actually that have happened since this slide was created, but finally, when customers went to the FAQ section for the DOT webpage, we found that information was not consistent with other pages. So the SJ311 team and communication team all updated the relevant information. So these all have been completed without additional budget, staff, or otherwise. And we will continue along the way to continue with quick wins. Now I'm going to pass it to Dolan to discuss next steps.
Thanks, Kia. So good afternoon, Chair, Honorable Mayor, and the rest of the committee members, members of the public, and city staff. Dolan Beckel, Chief of Staff for the City Manager and Executive Sponsor for this Customer Service Vision and Standards Initiative. I have the easy part, which is just what's next. I first want to thank Kia for her transparency and flexibility. It's not always easy to have some of the warts in our customer service brought to your attention, and she's been very open and transparent and eager to fix things and help us solve this. So I just want to say thank you for your partnership in this. In terms of where we are, I think the best thing to do is look at that project staff and the tasks in the lower part of the presentation. So the discovery is finished. We are just about finished mapping that current state, so taking all of those personas and mapping them through and finding out what's working well and what's not working well and adding them to the things we need to fix. We're in the process of developing a vision statement and a set of standards, and that's nearly complete. And most of the work now, we've just started the future state mapping and the transformation plan that will show us what scope of work goes in what order so that we can begin to align requests for resources and or continue those quick wins that we can do with existing budget and staff. What we plan to do, certainly because this is a multi-year transformation, is any appropriate recommendations would come forward as part of the annual budget process. However, we do recognize that there's a lot of interest in this project, so we're certainly open to either coming back to committee in February or March with the complete project and what the recommendations and transformation plan is, or we could also issue an info memo to the council, ideally not both, so we'll leave it up to the committee if they want to do a referral or we're happy to issue an info memo. So that would be the next step. We'll be prepared to do that in February at the earliest and leave that to the committee's direction. So again, I just want to thank city staff who've sat through us pretending to be customers and not knowing any better as we went through this experience. I think it was, there was a lot of energy from the staff. The staff want to deliver, our city staff want to deliver excellent customer service. They really do. And what we're really looking to do here is find out what we need to do to deliver them tools so they can do their job much better. And so I want to thank all the staff for participating in those hundreds of interviews and emails that were coming from us that they didn't know about, et cetera. Before I close, I do want to address one previous thing, Council Member, on your Chair, on your previous question about recruiting. I am the city's relationship to San Jose State's engineering school, and I was just at their annual meeting, and there's a number of initiatives underway to better recruit both full-time students as city employees as well as interns out of the engineering school. We actually need a lot of engineers in our public works and our environmental services division, and the San Jose State University has been spending a lot of effort pivoting from in-person to online. And now you can get not just an online degree, you can get your degree completely through virtual education at San Jose State University. They've done a great job. And so now they're moving back to some of those things that they need to pivot on. And top of the list is I'll be engaging Cheryl Ehrman, who's the chair of the College of Engineering, on opportunities to continue to ramp up our recruiting there as well. So this concludes our presentation on the status of the Customer Service Vision and Standards project, and happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you so much. I think it's a really important, exciting body of work. I appreciate it. Why don't we go to public comment?
Paul Soto.
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. You guys really think that engineers are this cornucopia of solutions for what befalls our city? And it's really not. Let me give you an example of how depersonalized we are becoming. When the woman started speaking about creating these 5 sectors of data points that are going to be used for analysis, what she actually said is that we're going to extract all this human information that was given to them, okay, then create data points out of them, and then create avatars. She didn't use that word, but that's exactly what it is. The creation of an avatar. And then this person is going to need this and this and this because the data says this. And so what you're doing is you're getting human beings, depersonalizing us, and then reducing us to a data point. And if somehow or another, some kind of customer service does not coincide with what you're saying, what you're going to do is, well, the data says this. Data doesn't say a word. Human beings interpret that. And the ones that get to interpret the data are the ones that are in power. This is the offense. Because you think a bunch of engineers could, why don't you try to give a data point and create an avatar out of somebody that's experienced generational racism, institutionalized racism, that has experienced police brutality and the racist policies that have created it? Why don't you create an avatar out of that and see what you get? You cannot conceptualize, you cannot reduce what has happened to many of the citizens in the city to data points. Language. You really need to accelerate that with the language, because I do not speak Spanish because of the abuses, the racism that existed in the city. You need to confront that.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for this follow-up item from the previous item. It really hurts that we can't be more honest with ourselves in how we talk about and use data as a community. But yet, I think we are in San Jose really trying to learn how, each day to better and better communicate and talk with ourselves exactly what is our tech and what we're doing with that tech. And I don't want to lessen that point at all. That for as angry as I can be and critical in the previous item, I want to also compliment yourselves that I think you really are making the efforts to want to address what are our human rights, what are our civil rights, what are our good civil protection values in the future of data in a city. And it just takes practice to learn how to better and better do that, and talking with everyday community about that. Good luck in those efforts, and that's what this item tries to work towards, so thank you. 311, I guess first a compliment to like AI issues that you guys are working on. You're really trying to develop a good human rights policies to those, different than in the past. Thank you for that. With the 311 issues, just very much of a thank you, a reminder that we were working in San Jose on 311 issues way back in 2017 and 18, when I think, you know, we were still using community policing as terms as where the whole community can be a part of the process. And, you know, when I speak at other city governments, I always mention the 311 program of San Jose and its research of 2017, 18, and 19 that I think is really large, and it covers a lot of ground that I think could be really impressive. And I just wanted to remind yourselves of that really good work of that time, and good luck in this work, what you're doing right now with 311 issues. Thanks.
Back to the committee.
Great, thank you. Look from colleagues' hands. None yet. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve staff's report.
I'll second.
Second.
Great, moved and seconded. You want to jump in, Mayor? Go ahead.
Thank you. I just found the request to speak button. I didn't realize where it was. I'm always in the wrong chair. I just wanted to echo the praise that Dawn articulated, really, for having such a growth mindset about this. We know these are hugely challenging issues for every city, particularly really understaffed cities like ours. So I just really appreciate that the whole team is really leaning in. Thanks for your leadership on this.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think customer service is so critical. That's the touch point. That's where the rubber hits the road, and where most residents actually have an interaction with their local government and determine how well they feel we're doing to serve them. So I really appreciate this work. I think it's really exciting. I guess I would put in my encouragement that we actually do come back in February or March when it's ready, so that we can get a sense of the scope of what you're proposing, of what's needed. I suspect, tell me if I'm wrong about this, that improving our customer journey here is not just going to be about all of the kind of back and forth we have, but really, are we able to fulfill the request? And I imagine that's going to be where the biggest budget impact is likely to be. Am I correctly assessing that?
Yes, you're correct. I think it's a very good point. What we're seeing is some of the consistencies we're seeing already without completing all of our review of what the customers have provided us in person is in multiple languages. Is for many of our services, we don't have a good coordinated contact and follow-up method. So something that may span multiple departments, one department may not have any visibility into what the other department's doing. Right. So I think up front, there's actually going to be a lot of process work and training work. And then I think following that, some of where need and desire has matched, there's been a desire in a lot of interviews to have a customer relationship management system that gives us a single view of the customer and allows us to see contacts across the organization, and then allows us to have what I've learned in my long experience in doing customer service for companies as big as AT&T is you need a citywide work queue so people can get visibility in the work that's doing, and you set follow-ups and you're able to respond and meet or reset expectations. But first, we see a lot of work is if you automate a bad experience, you just get a faster bad experience, right? So we need to work on some of the processes and training up front. And then I think probably the next fiscal year would be when the council will need to consider a heavy lift on technology.
Yeah, I appreciate that point. I mean, so much of our work is now interdisciplinary or interdepartmental, and so that holistic view of the customer is really critical. So that makes a ton of sense. I actually had, just up-leveling even one from there, had a question about whether or not we are looking at how well we do handoffs to other government agencies. I had the experience a few years ago of seeing a water main leaking, and I think I called 311. I know I called 311, but then I believe I was told to call San Jose Water Company, and I was in the car, and I didn't have time to look up their number, and I saw water gushing out. It was kind of a frustrating experience. Do we look at interconnection points with county, water district, et cetera?
Yes, we do. And part of kind of, I think Kia telegraphed it a bit at the end, which is we may not be able to fulfill a request, but we can ensure that the the customer understands, that our residents, businesses, and guests understand, and we give them consistent direction on how to get that fulfilled. Some things are like the hours of our pet care kind of are synergized with the county and with the city, and we found some instances where we were not giving consistent handoff out of hours, and the county would give one answer and we would give the other. So we are considering those types of completion. May not be the city's actually completed either a service delivery or completed a service request, but we have actually we've completed the request by telling the customer what they can do and where they can go. And in many instances, it's as simple as doing a warm handoff to that phone number so they feel like that experience is moved singularly from the city to the county, for example.
Exactly. Yeah, great. Okay. Awesome. Really excited to continue this conversation when we come back. Vice Mayor, are you open to including the committee referral in your motion?
Yes.
Great. And I think Councilmember Foley, did you have the second?
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, great. Sorry, I wasn't sure who it was. Okay. Well, unless there's anything else, I think we are ready to vote.
Foley,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Vehicle abatement.
All right, Sheriff, the Beautify San Jose Vehicle Blight Initiative is a reimagining of a patchwork of services to design a concerted, effective, and responsive approach to the growing number of vehicle complaints the city is seeing. The City Council and City Manager both have this as a high priority based on community feedback. A multi-departmental team is building from the ground up to minimize complaints, achieve proactive and equitable services, and use complaint patterns to be smarter in our responses. We are early in the human-centered design work, and completing the joint designs will lead to workflows and governance that create the desired outcomes while using resources to maximum effect, and we know what those limitations can be. The team will present with our Chief Information Officer and Laura Wells, our Assistant Director for Transportation, leading off for the whole group. Khaled?
Good afternoon again, Chair Mahan, Mayor Ricardo, members of the council, and members of the public. My name is Khaled Taufik, and I'm joined here. I'm the Chief Information Officer, and I'm joined by Laura Wells, Assistant Director from the Department of Transportation, and Herman Sidano, Project Manager from the Information Technology Department. We are here to present the Vehicle Blight Status Report. Today's presentation will provide background, current challenges associated with the vehicle blight services, and share our progress on this project. I will turn it over to Laura to start the background information.
Thank you, Khaled. So, as shared previously, vehicle abatement is the lowest service in 311 in terms of customer satisfaction. For last fiscal year, the overall ratings at the good and very good level were 16.7%. Not good. Customer expectations do not align with the services that the program provides or that it's resourced to provide, and the ratings are significantly impacted by whether a vehicle is investigated, and if it is investigated, if the vehicle is towed. The ratings are also impacted by confusion from residents on why their service request was closed and the lack of communication on the status of a request in some cases. The Vehicle Blight, Beautify San Jose Vehicle Blight is an initiative in the 22-23 city roadmap. Largely due to these low ratings and the increase in complaints that we know council members are receiving across the city. And it's not just about abandoned vehicles, but there are other concerns such as trash and encampments that are also impacting the concerns about vehicles. Next slide, Khaled. The team that has gathered to look at this and to reimagine how the service can be provided Our preliminary assessment are in these three main areas that you see there. And we know that we need to listen more and learn and better understand the concerns from the residents' perspectives. We know, as I mentioned previously, that residents are confused with existing responses, especially if there's no investigation. And given that 70% of the service requests fall in this category, we know we have an opportunity to not just close the request if the photos that were submitted do not show properly show the vehicle conditions, allowing them an opportunity, leave the case open, and provide an opportunity for them to provide additional or missing information. Currently, the abandoned vehicle service provides more robust communication to the users than other 311 services. But still, we know that the communication, based on what we're hearing and seeing in the comment section and what council is receiving, that we need to revisit the messaging, especially when residents may not see results with the vehicle that they're reporting, and particularly when the vehicle may not be towed. We know that the messaging needs to be consistent, clear, and friendly, and that it needs to be expanded to not just DOT, because there are other departments, as I mentioned, involved in this. Currently, DOT triages all of the requests that come in through 311 with regards to vehicles. And then we're manually forwarding those to other departments, but we close the case. And so there's no tracking of what happens with a request, if it might be transferred to PBCE or the police department, and the resident doesn't know what happens. And so we know we need to look at that area. There's also many departments such as PBCE, Parks and Rec, Housing, that get requests outside of 311. They get them through attending meetings, through social media, through emails, phone, and those aren't tracked within 311, and those aren't broadly, there's limited awareness across the departments on vehicles, the same vehicle, if you will, or if there's concerns about a certain area. And this is an opportunity that we have to improve the system, to improve the collaboration, and to ultimately improve the experience for the customer. Khaled, sorry.
Thank you, Laura. Our preliminary assessment of the current process confirmed the feedback and concerns received from City Council and members of the public. We have identified several opportunities to increase collaboration between departments, increase public engagement, and improve our communication during and after completing services. The chart or the diagram, the workflow on the screen reflect the complexity and also identifies the preliminary work that we have done so far. Through the preliminary process, we gained a better understanding of the complexity of the current process and the need to provide an enterprise solution to ensure service consistency, and to provide a way for all departments to be aware of the work performed by other teams, and to ensure collaboration to improve services. For example, the Department of Transportation referred about 130 stolen vehicles to police department, and 214 services requests to the housing department for assistance with situations where vehicles were occupied. Some of the occupied vehicles were also referred to the Beautify encampment management team to provide trash pickup services. The referred services are currently managed separately by various systems, and in some cases are tracked manually. The poor customer satisfaction is the result of requests being assigned to the wrong department and low visibility to work performed by various groups, which resulted in duplicating efforts and slow responses to and escalations to critical requests. Excuse me. We are currently engaging with stakeholders to redesign our process and implement changes to the systems to ensure collaboration across departments, improve our communication tools and language, provide public education and set expectations, increase proactive services and public engagement, and ensure seamless integration between departments and IT systems. And I will turn it over to Herman.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairperson Mahan, Mayor Ricardo, committee members, and members of the community. My name is Germán Sedano. I am a project and product manager with the IT department. In regards of progress, I would like to mention that we have formed a team. This team includes departments that are going to be working on vehicle abatement. We have formed a team that includes subject matter experts, department's leadership, and all of them have been working with us. And as a result, that's the graphic that you saw before. We have captured their concerns, the risks that they see related to this project, and we continue to work with those individuals in order to move forward with the project. In regards of improvements, while we have identified improvements to emails, and it was said before, communication is an area that we need to increase. We have already made some changes, some enhancements. For example, when somebody wants to report an abandoned vehicle, there is a list of conditions that the vehicle needs to meet in order for that service request to be investigated. Rather than just enter a text about that, we actually have added a picture of how the vehicle should look like so that they know ahead of time that that's the condition that their vehicle has to have, the reported vehicle, in order to be investigated. Another thing that we have done is we have completed the internal requirement analysis. That was done through multiple sessions. We use user stories technique in order to identify all the flow, the user experience from the intake until the closure. We have hired a human-centered design consulting firm that will help us to design a solution from the user perspective. Rather than us tell the resident, this is a solution that will work for you, we're going to be asking them, what are your needs, what are your pain points, so that those can be incorporated in the design of the solution. That's very much the concept of human-centered design. And another thing that I want to mention is that in this effort, we have identified a group of personas or user types. For example, the needs of a homeowner compared to a business owner, compared to an individual living in his or her vehicle are different. Similarly, if somebody who has a low English proficiency or somebody with a disability, those individuals will have different requirements, different needs, and those are being incorporated as part of the work that the human-centered design consultant is going to do. Those are going to be done through focus groups, and we are in the process to start them on the 14th of November. Another thing that we have done is we have verified that the platform that we have, San José 311 platform, is going to be able to accommodate a process enhancement, that the technology support this type of solution, that the current solution can be adjusted in order to improve and incorporate vehicle blight type of tickets. So we have done that verification, and we feel comfortable that indeed that is going to be the case. Another improvement that has been made is actually coming from the police department. Now in their incident report cards, instead of having call this number, they say contact San José 311. So we expect that that's going to increase the uses of San José 311, but at the same time, we're going to be able to provide a better service to them, since you will have a record about that call and the result of that. Next one is creating avenues for success. Basically, how do we see a path in order to address these type of challenges, such as vehicle blight? For example, one of the things that we notice, as we said before, is very close engagement with the residents, with the users, and working with different stakeholders, because as I mentioned before, they have different needs, different expectations, and if we don't consider them, the solution might not work for some group, and that's what we want to avoid. Another thing to mention is that our personas or user types also include resources or individuals from low-income communities, residents who speak Spanish and Vietnamese, and residents with disability. So we wanted to put the equity stamp on the project, because it's important that we don't only focus on a technical solution, but we also have in mind that our population is diverse and they have different needs, and they come from different I would say, backgrounds. Communication, again, continues to be a focus for us. We are partnering with the Office of Communication. We will have a renewed marketing campaign. We did that when we wanted to increase equity, when we wanted to increase the number of users and service requests from low-income communities or marginalized communities, I would say. We plan to use that experience in order to utilize it for the vehicle blight. Now, training is going to be a very important factor here. We are talking about a new service, new process flow. So we need to make sure that our staff is trained, that there is sufficient information available to them so that they can handle this new type of service request when the time comes. We have a preliminary schedule. Some key being the fact that we're going to engage different groups, different personas. We expect that the residents, homeowners, business owners, residents with disabilities will be part of that user acceptance test. We plan to do it in during the month of summer. With that, we will plan to have a deployment and training soon after that. Okay. Implementation and resource planning. As we have said, this is a new service. This is a new approach to deal with the vehicle complaints. So once we have a new process flow, we should be in the position to define what will be the performance targets for this new service. A new service might have a different performance target that we have seen so far in San Jose 311. And also, those targets will not only be set for DOT, they will also be set for other departments that are impacted or work on vehicle-related issues. Another thing that we need to identify is what customer satisfaction objectives we should set for this service. So that's going to come up also after we have a new process flow. Finally, we need to look into the operating flow that is going to be used that will include other departments, because this project starts with the understanding that in order to provide better services, you need to be a close collaboration across departments. So that's going to be included in the process flow. And finally, what kind of staff will be required to provide this service? Are we talking about reallocating resources? Are we talking about getting new resources? That's something that we will know once we have access or we have completed a improved process flow. Takeaways, as it has been said from the beginning of the presentation, listening to customers is an important part of this project. And that's why we consider that using a human-centered design, where a solution is built around user needs, will further improve the communication, and also the residents will know that indeed we are listening to their demands. Another thing to take away is that the collaboration is not going to happen only through processes, but it's also going to happen with technology. We talk about integration of services, integration of platforms. That also is going to be a mechanism to improve collaboration. As a result of that, we should have better response to vehicle complaints and also be able to provide responses to escalations or requests for information on some of those tickets. As you have seen before, some of those tickets are worked by departments that we don't have access to, or some of those requests come through email or social media. That's one of the takeaways, that this will need to happen with an integrated type of solution and also of process. Overall, we feel that we are on track to provide a solution. And when we talk a solution, we're talking about a process and also a technology to address vehicle blight. Next, I would like for us to see who are part of this team. We have representatives, we have our sponsors, the executive committee, we have the functional leads from multiple departments who have been working very hard with us, plus the ITD San Jose 311 team, who is also part of this effort. With this, in case you have any feedback and questions, please send those to Germán Sedano. Send it to Germán Sedano.
Great, thanks, Germán, Khaled, and Laura. Appreciate it. Great. Why don't we hear from the public first?
Paul Soto.
Thank you, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I'm really getting those terms are within the context of city government. I want to be referred to as the Chicano community, as the Mexican American community, as the Mexican community, as the Mexican immigrant community, as the Salvadorian community. Why? Why is this city insistent on being so disrespectful to these communities? And I want to know who marginalized these communities. Why don't we talk about that? Who created this underprivileged class of people? Let's talk about that. Why do you continually insist on being disrespectful to these communities? Because the city is still racist. It has institutionalized and normalized
point of
racist
order.
language.
Chair, point of order.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
This is not, these comments.
Yes, it is, because vehicle abatement.
Let's get back to vehicle blight. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
If that was given as a warning, Paul Soto, you can unmute yourself again.
Yes, he went into all of these areas of equity, underprivileged, mentioned it.
Paul, the topic is vehicle blight.
I didn't mute him. It looks like his, he just left the meeting. His voice isn't coming in, so I'll move on to
let's
Blair
move
Beekman.
on. Thanks.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks a lot for this item. I think what Paul was trying to say is nothing else. How can people who are living in, like, we have a serious RV situation going on that I think this item can be a part of, that's trying to address, and I thank you for that. Maybe that can relate to what Paul's trying to say. And so I hope we can find the connections with this item and what to do about the future of RV vehicle situations. The city of Fremont is one example. They took a kind of an austere approach to their RV issues, whereas the city of Mountain View has taken a more progressive approach with, I think, some interesting examples that it's been spoken about a public comment a few times that it's nice to mention those words each time it comes up here now. So check out and look into the work that's going on with the Mountain View RV program, what they're doing to really look for proactive ways to address RV issues that I think can be interesting. This was a very dry report, and which was interesting in its dryness. It was nice to see government in action practicing how government talks to themselves and works on issues. And now it's, I hope with that dryness, our input can be towards, progressive ideas and helpful ideas to people who need it. And I know people want to complain, and the complaining is important, and good luck how we can address the complaints with real, decent results, decent-minded results. Good luck in those efforts from all of us. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Great, thanks. I'll go right here in the chamber, and then we'll move online. I think everybody wants to chime in on this topic, and I see Mayor Liccardo first. You're okay?
I
Oh,
think
maybe
that's
that
from
was
before.
before.
Yeah, it was. Thank
Okay,
you.
well then I'll go to Councilmember Collin. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and I know this is an important topic for many of us, as you pointed out, and obviously the number of people involved in working on it shows the urgency with which you're taking it. I just want to back to the slide number 4. You don't have to put it up, but you listed on that slide. You talk about, let me see what it says. Issues that lead to people's dissatisfaction, and talk about closing requests without explanation, poor communication, limited collaboration. I suggest that we've missed what I think is the primary, and this summary misses what's the primary issue that I think will continue to lead people to be dissatisfied, and that is not matching expectations that the public has. And I think that should be number one, is making sure that we set the proper expectations and that the public understands what they can expect as a service. And I don't know that we still are dealing with that issue. I understand that that's not necessarily a technical issue. It's not necessarily a process issue. But as long as, on the last slide, it talks about, the final comment was, the city is on track to provide a comprehensive solution to address the vehicle blight problem. I'm not sure we have what our common definition between the public and the city of what the vehicle blight problem is. And as long as we don't have that, I don't see how any solution that we come up with is going to lead to satisfaction of our community. So just to be clearer about that, there's an ordinance that says that people can't leave their vehicle in place for more than 72 hours. The public knows about that. It's been out there for a long time. It's communicated throughout neighborhoods. When they report a vehicle that they think they don't want in front of their home anymore, or they don't want on the street anymore, to them, that's blight. The fact that the vehicle is even there is blight. That might not be our definition of blight. It might not be the definition we should use for blight. It also probably shouldn't trigger towing a vehicle away. But as long as the public expects it to trigger that result, the outcome will be a dissatisfied customer. So I'm not sure, I think we have to get to that point of having an honest conversation amongst ourselves as a council. What is it that we want our ordinance to say? What is it that we want to tell the public that we will do in different situations, and have a different checklist depending on the type of vehicle, some of which are just simply parked longer than they should be or are not being moved according to our ordinance, versus vehicles that are truly blighted or stolen or, a danger to the community. If we change the language in some way now to say vehicles that are blighted by this definition will be dealt with, and other vehicles, will have a count. I mean, whatever we need to do in our system up front to make sure that people who use the system know what it is that what system they're entering the information into, I think could make a difference. But I'm just concerned that we're not addressing what the root problem is as we do this. Dan, if you want to comment on that.
Councilmember Cohen, yes. And in fact, we listened during the last meeting, and I think the same comment was provided then, and we have made changes to the 311 intake side to clearly say that vehicles that meet the following qualifying conditions will be investigated. And it lists the qualifying conditions, and they now have sample photos of what those conditions look like. And we've added language that most investigations don't result in the vehicle being towed, that we aren't able to tow vehicles because they're unsightly. The conditions that are listed on 311 were selected because they're more likely to be vehicles that are truly abandoned. Anywhere from, on average, it's about 20% that we do investigate that end up being ones that are either inoperable or we come back and they're still there, indicating that they're more likely abandoned. The program that we had in place a few years ago where we investigated 100% of all the service requests, the majority, 93% plus of service requests did not result in a tow. Largely the concerns, those concerns that didn't result in a tow, the vehicles were just parked for too long or not abandoned.
Right, and I fully, that makes sense to
Yeah.
me. And I guess I shouldn't have focused only on towing. I think I'm sorry, you wanted to chime in, but I think even people would expect a citation, a notice, some kind of investigation, some kind of comment to an owner, you can't leave this vehicle here. And I know we don't have the resources to do that, and I'm not suggesting we do it, but I think there's an expectation that from the public, that they deserve a city response when they just want when a vehicle's been sitting for too long. And we need to have, so I know we're doing better of making sure people understand what they're reporting, but I'm not sure the public's getting that message. And I don't know that, I think it's a policy question as much as it is a technical question or a staff question. I think we have to have that policy discussion. What should our ordinance say, and what should we be telling the public that we offer as a service? So I'll leave. I don't know if you want to say something about that, Rob.
Yeah, and just to make sure we're hearing you clearly, part of that is the intake and making sure that we're responding to the different types of requests rather than shoving everything through one line that would be insufficient or just by definition unresponsive. Another one is communicating what to expect. That is part of the design discussion for the human-centered design work. It's on our list. Another one is chance to add and edit. So if we don't understand your request well enough, to actually have a conversation rather than close and depart. And then the key one that's probably the most difficult is what you're saying is the language around contributing to blight, what the policy direction for the city is, so that we can communicate and educate as part of the process. And then the very last piece that we never want to forget is the proactive work that's part of that human-centered design, because if we can prevent the complaint in the first place and we can see where the hot spots are, the chronic offenders, the egregious cases, and where those occur, then hopefully we can actually ameliorate cases where they never even come up and the frustration in the neighborhoods aren't as prevalent. So all those are in the design work, but I want to make sure we're hearing you right, because that policy is one, and we have that marked as probably one of the more difficult steps, but also just being clear with the community, here's what to expect, do we understand you correctly, and being able to respond that way.
Yeah, and I think we, as you said, we've had this conversation before, so I'm not saying anything new or novel, but the comment about making sure the expectations are set correctly, even at the beginning, even a response email on that particular intake system that says, to clarify, here's the actions we take in what cases we take them, and here's what we don't do, or even something very clear to people right up front. But I do like the idea of allowing for, not closing it and allowing for additional feedback. In other words, the closing statement would say, based on the information you presented, we aren't taking action. If you believe that there's more information we should know, that kind of thing. So I do appreciate that. And I know that this work is good and important. I'm concerned because we're the ones who all receive those complaints. And this isn't the only area where it's true. It's true of homeless concerns and others too, right? We can't just tell people we're going to, every time somebody wants something moved, they're going to get it moved. But we have to be able to have the appropriate messaging on how we're going to respond.
Council members, if Cohen, if I may add one or two things. One, probably one of the things we're going to be doing when we interview the public is ask them exactly the same question. When we cannot do it, what would you like us to do? What kind of message, what kind of things, just to see how we can absorb some of the frustration and communicate in a more effective way. Two, we're hoping after we complete the design and our assessment is to share our recommendations and options for council to consider to move forward, and changing the policy could potentially be one of the things that we will include in the recommendation.
And Kyle, is there a timing for you all prompting us to have that conversation about policy?
We're hoping to complete the assessment, well, the plan is to complete the assessment in December, and we can return back early next year with the report.
Okay, excellent. We'll jump in now. Okay, Mayor?
Thank you. First, I just want to say thank you for not towing all the cars, because I haven't washed my car in 9 years, and I know I'd be the first to get towed. Yes. Sometimes it tow me, I don't know. But so first, Herman, thank you for all your hard work on this. I know members of our team have been working with you. They've been very grateful for how receptive you've been to suggestions, and we all recognize there's a lot of work to be done here to align this program with expectations of our community. So really appreciate all the changing and the work. One of the positive changes was, we had a real logjam around getting cars towed. Tow yards were full. We didn't have enough folks who were empowered to be able to authorize the tows to the junk yards, I'm told. And so you and the team at SJPD trained up, I guess, 10 officers, I think. And my understanding is that PTCOs do not have the authority currently to issue those toted junk slips, or am I wrong about that? Help me understand who's got the authority, who doesn't.
I believe, Mayor, you're referring to when vehicles are determined to be junk cars.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we do not have the authority to issue those tows.
Only PD does.
Yeah.
Is that by state law, or is that our doing?
I would have to check. I don't know.
So I
believe it's
appreciate
state law.
that we've trained more officers to do that, but we also know cops are busy. I mean, we're really well, I know we're all understaffed, but officers are really busy if they're being called out for 911 calls, and particularly if it's a high priority call. So is there any way we could expand the authority to PTCOs to be able to issue those toted junk?
We can explore that. I'm communicating with our
good.
lead
Thank
division
you, Laura.
manager
All right,
on
well,
this
we're
right
finding out
now.
instantly. Okay, great. It just seems like that's a huge choke point. And I know there's a problem with the tow yards already, and so if we could bypass that, in those cases not involving my 2013 Chevy Volt, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor. Okay, we will go online to Vice Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Khaled and the team, for that presentation and for the very detailed answer to my question on the first item. So thank you for that. I was really impressed how you created that flow chart in 10 minutes. So good work. Actually, I had the exact same questions as Councilmember Cohen in terms of expectations, and you addressed all of my questions on that. I haven't had the opportunity to use the app for abandoned vehicles. I know you referenced an example of a vehicle that will qualify. What else does the user see when they go into the app and they get a notification that sets expectations?
I think one of the conditions that a vehicle must fit in order or meet in order to be investigated is, for example, that they have the airbags open. A vehicle that is completely on jacks, that will be another one. Another one, I believe, will be if the vehicle has been sprayed with graffiti that indicates that there is potential danger there.
So, so that's what pops up when they when they're about to submit their request or after they submit their request?
In this case, Vice Mayor, as Laura was explaining, we have recently added pictures to it of photos, but those conditions are set up front. So a resident, before he or she submits a service request, that resident should know that the vehicle that is being reported or wanted to be reported will qualify for an investigation or not.
Okay. And so it's very clear once they see that notification that if the vehicle they're reporting doesn't meet that criteria, that no action will be taken, or it depends. Again, I'm getting into nuance, but it really boils down to, properly setting expectations. If the statement that they see is, if this vehicle does not meet this qualification or criteria, then it will not be, we will not respond. You will not, get a follow-up email. I'm just trying to understand, in terms of, again, setting customer, resident expectations, what is it that's communicated to them?
Vice Mayor, this is Rob Lloyd, Deputy City Manager. I think we actually have two answers for you right now. Is on the vehicle abatement as it's currently built, we are trying to add those cues and descriptors and images of here's what it needs to look like or what's a qualifying thing for vehicle abatement itself. We're going to fork that separately from, for example, someone's living in their car in my neighborhood, there's bio-waste nearby, those types of things. And so in the future, in the designs we're coming up with, the prompts should be there to actually ask them the right questions and then set the right expectations for how and where this will be handled and the timeline. So at least for now, those improvements have been made, but in the intent is in the next design to create something of a singular queue where you go in and it's not all vehicle abatement. It's here's my complaint, and then it asks you the right questions and gives you the right information so that you can get through the process cleanly. And then the city staffs that need to be involved, one or many, then get the right information and those child tickets can be completed and the person will get the right messaging as each piece is resolved. Or even if the staff has to respond that this one doesn't qualify and for these reasons and turn it into an educational moment. I'm not sure if that's helpful on your question though, but if I understood your question correctly, I think that addresses, but let me know if I missed anything.
Yeah, partially, but again, it goes back to what is the messaging that the customer, I keep saying customer, I go back to my private sector life. What is the messaging that our residents, see once they hit submit? It's this vehicle, does this vehicle meet the qualifications or criteria that we showed you in this pop-up or whatever it is that they see? If the answer is no, then is it communicated that like nothing's going to happen, or there'll be I don't know if I'm articulating it very well, but I'm just there's a gap there in terms of what the customer should expect when they hit submit, and what the potential follow-up actions are.
Vice Mayor Jones, this is Cal Tawfik, CIO. I don't want to jump into designing the system, but ideally, two things will make an effect or enhancement in this area. One, what Rob Lloyd has indicated, that instead of just having everything going through one channel, because vehicle blight has different categories, so we want to capture it in the front. So when they specify that this is the scenario that I'm reporting, then ideally the questions will change to make sure that we're capturing the proper information. Now, if they are reporting something, I don't like the car hasn't been washed for 2 weeks, please tow it, then the message should also reflect that according to this law, we cannot, or this restriction, we cannot do that. Is there anything else that you can provide to help us achieve that objective? So this is one of the things we're going to be looking at in our redesign to see how we can engage the conversation in a way that they don't submit unless there is that good chance that we're going to be doing something about it. Otherwise, they regardless what we do after that, because somebody who spent the time to go through the effort and submit it and then wait for a week or 2 days or even 1 hour for somebody to go back and say, no, doesn't really meet the minimum, then we already got somebody upset because they invested the time and the effort and they got nothing. So ideally, we will do a process for them to drive through a certain questions, and then if the vehicle does not qualify, then we should be able to get them to understand before they submit that there's a good chance it's not going to be investigated, or we cannot tow the car, or whatever that's going to be. But that's the kind of process we're looking to understand from the public's perspective, how we can engage them through a series of questions or dynamic or interactive website or system, so we can minimize the chances for them to submit something where we're not going to be able to do something about it.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. I want to key in on every word that you use, but when we say good chance or possibility or maybe, that's a different set of expectations than this car will not be towed if it doesn't meet this criteria. That's the main point I wanted to make. And the other issue that I raised is, and again, I haven't used the app to report a vehicle. I'm actually thinking about reporting Sam's car. So I'm gonna use the app and do that and see how it works and see how it flows. But thank you for the explanation.
Your point is well taken. I use the word may or not because sometimes the photo or the image might have information that can help us or not help us to react to it. So hopefully one day we'll be able to do some intelligence where we can analyze the picture on the fly, where we can say, it doesn't seem to be meeting the requirements, but we'll see what we can do as we redesign the system.
Great, thank you. And I'll make a motion to accept staff's report.
Second.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. If we all file complaints, maybe the mayor will actually wash his car. Okay. Councilor Foley, you are up.
Except you'd have to take it into a car wash because we don't want them to use extra water and affect the drought. At any rate, this is clearly a big topic for this committee and for our residents. And we've all mentioned it. It's about managing expectations and going on to San Jose 311, inputting that you've got a car in front of you that you want to be towed, and then not knowing whether it's going to be happening or not. So I've mentioned this almost every Smart Cities meeting in managing expectations and how we are going to convey this to our residents. So Rob, you had mentioned our next redesign. This is something we're going to be taking a look at as to how we can provide a better customer feedback experience. What is the timing for that redesign?
So the design work, as Khaled mentioned, is scheduled to be done by the end of December, at which point we can bring it back to you and say, here's how we would put that flow together, and here's some options and also some points of possible feedback from the committee. That would at earliest be the February committee meeting because the January 1 lands on a holiday week. So if you want to do something in the February, March meetings, we could target that to bring that design back. There also is some near-term improvements we can possibly keep looking at because we've already done some, but expectation management, clarity of messaging, and follow-up are the three things that we are focusing on based on the feedback from you and other council members.
Yes, and I would say that what you're talking about, San Jose 311 and vehicle abatement, is really goes back to good customer service and the customer service report we just had, which is we have to manage expectations. Managing expectations means we communicate what those expectations are, and then we follow through with our residents to let them know, no, this did not meet. I'm sorry, we didn't tow the vehicle, and here is why. We in our council offices, we manage this issue every day, all the time. It's probably not the top issue, but it's one of the top issues that our residents call and complain about, because really satisfaction to them, the reason that satisfaction number is low is because satisfaction to them is only when the car is removed, truck, vehicle is removed. It's not that, it doesn't really meet the criteria and therefore we're not going to do anything. They want the car gone. And they think that by reporting it to us, it will be gone. we need to convey that under certain circumstances that will happen, under other circumstances that won't happen. So the more clearly we can convey that in language that they understand, that's an important message for us, and we should do that as quickly as possible. So I look forward to the revamp. So I really appreciate all of this. Clearly, it's a hot topic. I wanted to ask about the user acceptance testing that you're going to do. How will you locate those users to test? And how can we, as a council office, provide you with names of individuals who might be willing to participate, and to make sure that we have a cross-section of people participating in the testing, such as senior citizens, those with disabilities, those with, any language barriers, anything we need to test. How will you make sure that we're guaranteed a cross-section of the city of San Jose in participating in that testing?
Yeah, I can answer that question. I think the people who are going to participate in the user acceptance testing in certain way are the ones that we're also going to be contacting in order to be part of the focus groups. We have been working with all different subject matter experts from the departments. They have provided us with names. They have this information because there are some residents who are more active about submitting service requests or sending complaints. We also have a database, of course, in San Jose 311 based on residents who have submitted a ticket request and have answered a survey. We have a group of residents who, for example, have provided us a very good feedback, but we also have the ones who have submitted a response saying very bad and bad. That is what we have, and we also have a number of residents that we have worked before, and working with some employees also. We are getting information about the residents who have some level of disability. Those will be also part of it. Now, when we contact the council member offices, we also ask those offices if they can provide some names. Some of them have done it. Certainly, we are open to receive more names from all the offices that we have.
Can you, great, that's a good cross-section. And I'm glad to hear that you're reaching out to the council offices. I don't know if my office has been one that has responded, but could you send out the request again so that we make sure that we have another opportunity to get you names of folks who might be willing to participate? And as one of the districts that has a lot of people who use San Jose 311, I'd love to have someone representative, not a hand-picked resident, just someone who calls in regularly and reports regularly, and they may be on your radar already. So if you could send out information again to the council offices asking for names and help with that, I'm sure we'd all be happy to oblige as we have the time.
Councilmember Foley, I'll take it as a to-do. We'll reach out to all of the committee members, just circle back and ask again.
Great. I appreciate that. Thank you for the report, and thank you for the work in this area. I know it's not an easy one because, as I stated earlier, satisfaction is only when the car is removed or the vehicle is removed for many of our residents, and that's not going to happen per our policy. So we just need to manage that and let people know that. Thank you.
Thanks, council member. And I'll just try to bring us home here with a couple final questions and comments. I appreciate all the great comments from my colleagues. They all make a lot of sense to me. It sounds like, just trying to synthesize some of what I heard today from colleagues, that it would be really helpful to have some sort of funnel analysis of, here are all the car-related complaints we get, and here are the different buckets they fall into. Here's how many we ultimately classify as being blight. Here's how many are somebody just complaining about a vehicle they don't like that's been there for too long. Here's a vehicle that's noisy or doesn't look very nice, whatever it is. And then when we come back, it sounded like early next year, Q1, let's say, or I guess that's technically Q3 for us. maybe understanding what are some of staff's policy recommendations around each of those buckets. What I think Councilmember Cohen mentioned earlier, the appropriate response isn't towing in all of these cases, but is it a warning or a notice or a citation of some kind? And so I think just really understanding what those buckets are. Similarly, back on slide 6, if it's easy to put up, great. If not, that's okay. A lot of the conversation that we just had through the presentation was related to coordination across departments. Really important, but I was observing that of the total number of requests, over 90%, at least based on the data we have here, over 90% all still are that top row flowing through DOT. And so I do get a little nervous about, as I was looking at slide 11, it looks like a pretty heavy process. It's a big project. We're talking about some significant investment in a new system to coordinate across departments largely. It feels a little waterfall to me. We wouldn't be actually shipping anything to our end user for about a year, little less, 10 months. It's a long time. It'd be better if we could be incrementally shipping improvements every couple weeks or months. So I'm just curious, as we look at that top row, if 90% are going through DOT, and what we currently have at the end of that flow is a nice happy green box, customer satisfaction survey, but I think we know what's behind that happy green box is actually 80% dissatisfaction. So I would just suggest, and I'll I guess try to turn this into a question, but could we, within that flow, where over 90% of the calls are, where our primary problem may not be coordination with other departments that requires a whole new system, can we do the funnel analysis and start much more quickly breaking out the user journeys, the needs, how we're going to respond, push that policy conversation for us to have, and figure out how do we drive up those satisfaction numbers without waiting a year for a new system to be built? Is that possible?
Thank you for your question. This is actually a great question because there are two things that we're going to learn in the next 4 to 6 weeks. One, there are a lot of the requests not being tracked in any system. So we're hoping that we identify more of that, and that will allow us to adjust as we learn how many are actually kept in a spreadsheet or email or something like that. So that's one thing that we're going to continue to investigate. The second part, we already have a lot of systems, but they are not talking to each other. Even 311 as a system, it has capability to track and do a lot of things that we can do. So we already have engaged the existing vendor to see how we can start making, because we know some of the features we want are available in the system, but we haven't tapped in the system yet to take advantage of these features. So the goal is exactly what you're stating, that we're going to try to maximize as much as possible by investing in the existing systems and looking for ways for the system to interact or interface. And then if we cannot accommodate the big picture with what we have, then there will be phase 2, 3, and 4, and that's part of the package we're going to be presenting early next year.
Okay, great. That's great to hear. I'm glad. It sounds like we're on the same page there. I think Councilmember Cohen back, whatever it was, half hour ago, started us off on the right point, which is just, it's all about figuring out what does the resident expect, how do we tell them what we can do, if we need to change policy to better match expectations or just better communicate that this is the policy, it's not changing, and here's why. I'd love to front load that conversation as quickly as possible. So, okay, great.
Council or Chair, if one thing I want to try to grab in there is not just whether or not it was the abatement case, but what type of complaint it was, like a combination of fire hydrant and someone parked too long. So some people submit other things. You want that kind of view where we really break down a ladder of what the complaints were, where they went, what fell through, what was successful.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, you all should tell us what's the best way to approach this. I don't mean to dictate the approach. I'm just observing that while we talked a lot about coordination across other departments, it looks to me like 90+% of the calls all came through DOT. No doubt there's a variety of use cases. Somebody I haven't even thought of, fire hydrant, right? Great, didn't even think of that. I had a neighbor at my old house in San Jose that was running a business and would park all of his business vehicles in the neighborhood and block up the whole neighborhood. I'm sure many of my neighbors complained about that. We have ugly vehicles, noisy vehicles, actual abandoned vehicles. We have all these different use cases. It would just be really helpful before we spend a lot of time building out a system to help us better coordinate with housing and PD and everybody else. what are, just from the biggest slice here, what are the different use cases? There's probably some kind of Pareto principle where, you know, most of them fall into a few categories. And how do we just better deliver, either set expectations or fulfill the request for those top 2, 3, 4 use cases? Because what it seems is happening, if I'm understanding this correctly, is we have use case 1, which is it's actually an abandoned vehicle. We actually identify it as such and we deal with it. And that's the 20% of cases or some subset of those where people are satisfied. Then we have use case 2, 3, 4, 5 in terms of volume of calls or requests that aren't that. We don't fulfill it or communicate it well. And we now have 80% of people unhappy. Can we take a big chunk out of 2, 3, 4 without having to necessarily build a big expensive system that's going to take a year? We probably need that system anyway, great. But if it's going to take a year to deploy, in the meantime, what can we do around use case 2 and 3 that are driving up dissatisfaction?
Absolutely.
Okay, I see heads nodding, so good enough. You can come back later and tell us if that makes any sense. Okay, great. Any other comments, questions? I think I'll just check Zoom. Great, I think we're ready to vote.
Foley,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo, Cohen,
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're on to open forum, which is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on any items not on today's agenda.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you. Larry Beekman here. Thanks a lot for the meeting today. I can't describe enough the importance of really wanting to work towards open, accountable practices as a part of the future of all the technology that we're learning how to understand in San Jose. You have good policies and practices that are growing within city government that I hope you guys can continue working on. You have good starts in how to work on those projects and to really, you want to talk to the community more. I hope you want to learn to make those efforts. Like I said before earlier, the ALPR process in October was kind of a disaster because I mean, you guys were working so hard to make, you know, community public meetings and to make points and to work towards a clarity that was really dismissed and not talked about. I hope you want to continue those sort of good efforts and want to continue to practice, you know, and work towards an openness and explanations, because we can explain things. The city of Berkeley has spent the past year, you know, working on better civil protections and the future of their ALPRs and commercial data that their community was real upset about this time last year. They worked on it, and a year later, they have answers. They have protections, civil protections for the future of their sanctuary city with ALPRs and commercial data. And that's an important goal that we can work towards, and we don't have to fear talking about that. We're still a bit fearful just to talk about those things openly. It should be an open conversation and a good, healthy, robust conversation for ourselves. And good luck how we can have that conversation, and it can be friendly. That's its purpose. That's the whole purpose of this work, is to build a friendly, sustainable, peaceful community future. It isn't by lying to each other and holding back things. Good luck how we work on these good technology practices and accountability in our future. Thank you.
Paul Soto.
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. There's a tremendous amount of bias and prejudice when you allow the city to use language on direct. And then when I cross-examine that language that the city introduced into the conversation, all of a sudden I'm off topic. It's prejudicial, it's biased, and unacceptable. That's point number one. Number two, I've gotten at least 150 people to vote for Mayor Mahan. And I'm gonna do everything that I can to ensure that he is elected mayor. Cindy Chavez has absolutely no business being anywhere near that seat. I don't trust her, and there's reasons why. Our current mayor knows exactly, he knows Ben Fields. He knows who Ben Fields is and knows his history. She hired Ben Fields to work with her at South Bay Labor Council.
Paul Soto, can you please speak about something other than the election? or individuals?
No, I can't. No, I can't. And I have an absolute right. You name the law where I cannot. Tell me why I cannot mention Cindy Chavez and the fact that
You shouldn't be speaking on individuals. If you can please make your comments more generally related to the city or city policy.
No, that's not what open forum is. I'm not supposed to talk about city policy. Open forum is where I could talk about anything that is not on the agenda or about policy, but within the purview of city government business. That's the policy. So I'd really appreciate you not interrupting me. Anyways, I want to do everything that I can to support Mayor Mahan.
Back to the committee.
Point of order, Chair.
Yeah, we are. Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think we are. Did you want to make a comment?
No, you know the point I was trying to make.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, open forum is not a time to talk about political candidates or to advocate for or against a candidate.
Thank you. Great.
Back to the committee.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the clarification. And with that, thank you to all of our presenters and my colleagues and everyone city staff. We are adjourned.